Hi everyone, my name is Sydney Stockton and I'm the co-president of the Georgetown Admissions Ambassador Program. We're coming to you live from Briggs Library at Georgetown University for our first Facebook live chat of the year. I'm going to go ahead and have our other panelists introduce themselves now.
Hi everyone, my name is Connor Peterson. I'm originally from Fairfield, Connecticut. I am currently a senior in the college and I'm studying biology.
Hi, my name is Natalia Vasquez. I'm originally from Denver, Colorado. I'm a junior in the McDonough School of Business, studying marketing and international business.
Hi everyone, my name is Tanner Davis. I'm originally from Dallas, Texas, and I'm a senior in the School of Foreign Service, majoring in science, technology, international affairs, and pursuing a certificate in international business diplomacy.
Yeah, so for the live chat today, we'd like you guys to comment on the actual chat with your questions, and then we'll answer them live for you. But we're going to go ahead and start off with, why don't you tell us, Natalia, the highlight of your freshman year, since you're the closest to freshman year from us?
Yeah, the highlight of my freshman year was around Christmas time. Georgetown becomes like very decorated, and in terms of like there's Christmas lights everywhere, and you start seeing like trees kind of popping up around campus. And to me, that was like, they do it every year, but my freshman year was just especially, I don't know, it was very cool just because I didn't think that anything could be so like spirited and spiritful for the holidays, but I loved that, and just all the holiday spirit that surrounded like December and that last month before the semester wrapped up.
Yeah, and we do have a lot of traditions at Georgetown. So Tanner, what is one of your favorites besides the Christmas lights?
I think one of my favorite traditions would have to be, well, at least not in the context of my freshman year. I know this isn't necessarily about freshman year, but every weekend morning, me and my friends from my freshman dorm, Darnell Hall, we would go to Leo's, which is our on-campus dining hall, for Sunday brunch, and just kind of catch up, have some tater tots, and enjoy the weekend morning with each other. So that was kind of one of my favorite traditions. But my other one, besides the Sunday brunch during freshman year, would definitely have to be every year by the time you graduate from Georgetown, every person's supposed to dance in the fountain that is in Dahlgren Square. I haven't had a chance to do that yet, but I know a lot of people that have, and so I think that that's just kind of a fun tradition for me.
Yeah, and you mentioned dining, so I know that's on a lot of your minds. Connor, can you tell us a little bit about our dining hall on campus and dining options?
Absolutely. We have a phenomenal dining hall on campus. It's called Leo O'Donovan's Dining Hall. Dining options come in the form of meal plans. So as a freshman or sophomore, you'll have a weekly meal plan of a certain amount of allowances. As you move forward, you can get block plans that go for the whole semester. And the dining hall offers a lot of different options, everything from pasta station, wok, burgers, pizza, home cooked food, anything you can imagine. The dining hall is also undergoing some renovations this year for all you lucky Hoyas next year. So they'll be adding some different DC vendors to the dining hall, which will add a lot more flexibility. And just this year, they also changed the meal plans up a little bit as well. So they started to include more on-campus locations such as Subway, Elevation Burger, Coasty, Salad Creations into the dining plan. So those dining plans have a lot of flexibility, a lot of great options, and it's been great to have that.
One thing I want to say also about the food on campus is every Wednesday during the fall and the spring, we have something called the Farmers Market right here on campus. So like Connor was kind of saying, the Georgetown Dining Hall is going to be implementing a few vendors from around the DC community, but also every Wednesday in the years past, and including this year, we have a bunch of different local DC vendors come on campus and serve us food. It's just kind of it's another one of my favorite traditions, if you want to get back to that question. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that too.
Yeah, so we actually have our very first question from Lauren, and I want to hear from all of you guys on what clubs you're involved in on campus, since that is such a big part of our university. So let's start with Tanner.
Okay. So in addition to being a member of the GAAP board, I am a member of the club soccer team here, and I'm also a blue and gray tour guide.
In addition to being on the GAAP board, I work at the Technology Center in the McDonough School of Business, and I'm also a peer ambassador at the MSB.
And in addition to GAAP, I work at Georgetown Hospital. I'm also a member of the Georgetown University Pre-Medical Society, and I was once a resident assistant back in my day.
Yeah, and in addition to the GAAP board, I am also the co-president of the Georgetown Aspiring Minority Business Leaders and Entrepreneurs, which is a club out of the McDonough School of Business that helps connect minority students to business opportunities. And I also used to be a member of the Black Student Alliance. So a lot of clubs at Georgetown, but a lot of people also want to hear about life after Georgetown. So could each of you tell me a little bit about your experience with the Career Center on campus or internships and jobs? Let's start with Natalia.
Yeah, so I personally have not really looked for jobs through the Career Center, although I know that they offer a bunch of resources to do that. But Georgetown has been awesome in connecting me with alums who work in fields, I guess, that I want to go into. So I've been able to talk, I'm going into marketing, so I've been able to talk to a lot of former Hoyas who are now out in really cool companies, like who are doing tech or doing like specific like brand marketing, which is what I would want to go into. And they're all very excited to help current Hoyas. So it's been awesome to kind of talk to them and share my experience at Georgetown with them, hear about theirs, and connect on that front. Yeah.
What about you, Tanner?
So being a senior, finding a job was a very real thing that we all felt kind of the pressure to get before we graduated. And so I think that especially this year, I definitely took advantage of the Hoya Career Connection website, which is through our colleague Career Education Center. It basically has every job posting you could ever think of for Hoyas currently. But one thing that I think was unique in my job search was that, having that Georgetown network beyond your 4 years here was super valuable to me because, sometimes you could look up a person at a company or look up a company on LinkedIn, for instance, and see, who graduated from Georgetown that currently works there, and you can reach out to them, and they're more than happy to help you just because, they know what a Georgetown student is like, and they were happy to help me with regards to the interview prep and connecting me with the right people at their companies, and then in the end, it kind of led to a job. So
yeah, and then great. Connor, as somebody who is pre-med, can you tell us a little bit about that application process for Georgetown students?
Yeah, absolutely. So as Cindy said, I am a pre-med student here. I'm planning to go to medical school next year. So my process has been a little different than Tanner's has. But I will say that the pre-medical advising at Georgetown has been really great. We have 2 awesome deans who are pretty much just devoted to doing pre-medical studies and helping students with their applications. So they've been very thorough and very helpful and letting me know everything that I need to do and giving me the kind of advice that I need to apply to medical school and be successful.
Yeah, so hopping back to clubs, we have a question from Nisha. Are clubs like the Corp difficult to get involved with? How do students get involved with clubs? So why don't we start with you, Natalia, talking about maybe some of the application processes for clubs and also clubs with open membership at Georgetown.
Yeah, so Georgetown is really good about communicating with students, different clubs that you can get involved in. At GAAP weekends, we have what's called a mini cab fair, where all the clubs will be represented, and they'll kind of be talking about how the different things that they do and different ways that students can get involved. And that is kind of just like a precursor to a big cab fair we have at the beginning of each semester for all Georgetown students, and every club is represented, and they just, again, talk to students about different ways that can get involved and how to sign up and what like being in that club entails. So it's very easy to like find out, what are different ways to get involved. And in terms of the process, some clubs do require an application, so you would just apply, and then you would hear back from that club within, a few days, a week or so. And then there are also a lot that are open membership. So for example, GAAP is open membership, and you can just get involved. If you want to help prospective students, you just sign up, and we will stay in touch with you in terms of like different ways you can get involved throughout the year and at GAAP weekends. And there's a bunch of other clubs that are like that as well. So you get a mix of both, but it's really cool. You'll get to find out what you're interested in.
Yeah, and I want to emphasize that even though some clubs do have an application process, you really do find your niche at Georgetown no matter where you end up. As someone who's a senior, who's applied to clubs, got in, not gotten in, I really am happy with the place that I'm at 4 years later, and all the decisions that were made were the right ones for me. And I think that we can say the same thing for everybody else on the panel. But our next question is from Ania, and why don't you answer this one, Connor? What are the relationships like with professors?
Yeah, absolutely. I could not be more happy with the professors at Georgetown. I think that has been one of the best parts of my entire experience. And it's because the Georgetown professors really do care about you as a person. I feel like all the professors who are here because they want to be teaching students. They want to be working with undergraduates. They all have office hours. They're all willing to get through outside of office hours. And they really do just want to get to know you. So even if you just stop by office hours to talk about your life, what's going on, they're more than happy to hear that and form that kind of relationship with you. So, in an academic sense, they're great, but, the even more valuable things have come from the non-academic sense where you can really form a sort of mentee-mentor relationship with them.
Yeah, and then I'll take this next one from Mina. It's about what is the roommate process like? So in the summer, you're going to be able to select your roommate for who you're going to live with at your freshman year at Georgetown. And there's a couple ways that students at Georgetown go about that. First, a lot of people actually meet each other through the Facebook group or through mutual friends who know each other from different high schools, and they'll end up rooming together. The second thing is a lot of people actually meet each other at our GAAP Open House weekend, so you guys should definitely come in March. So that's one way they meet during things like icebreakers or different panels. But I would say the most popular way that people meet roommates is on something called Charms, which we like to call here G-Harmony for roommate searching, and that's essentially where you fill out a survey with all of your preferences from things like whether you like to sleep in a cold room or a hot room, what time you like to wake up, what time you like to go to bed, and then you're able to match with people based off of those preferences and chat with them. A lot of people move that over to Facebook so they can see what the person looks like, but I personally can say that Charms definitely works. I met my roommate on Charms and we still live together 4 years later, so it's definitely a lot of options available for you all to find a roommate at Georgetown. And then the next question comes from John. So I'm going to direct this to Tanner, who I know has been to a lot of the basketball games. So tell me how you get tickets for the games.
So there are pretty much two options here. So at the beginning of every year, you have an option to buy a student group of tickets. A group of student tickets that you will buy as a package. I'm sorry. I just wanted to clarify. So this package will include tickets to all the home games, and then if we make it into the NCAA tournament, then we would potentially get tickets from there as well. However, if you don't want to buy the entire package of season tickets, it's so easy through the GAAP groups, especially to get tickets for one-off basketball games. I know that when I've had friends come in town from either other universities or from my home, it's just a really easy way to get an extra ticket to the games, and we just sit in the student section and just have a blast. The men's basketball games are all played at the Verizon Center downtown, which is where the Washington Capitals and the Washington Wizards play their games. So it's a really cool venue, and it definitely gets us off campus. We get to eat food downtown too, which is definitely a perk of going to the basketball game. So couldn't be happier with it.
Yeah, definitely. So this next question is going to be for Natalia, since you are in the McDonough School of Business. Is the academic environment competitive or collaborative at Georgetown?
I think it's very collaborative. So I am in the McDonough School of Business, and I tend to not be very good at like finance or accounting, which is funny because I'm in the McDonough School of Business, but I have found that there are a lot of everyone here is very smart and very willing to help you and like kind of pass on that knowledge, which has been awesome for me, because in finance classes, accounting classes, or like Excel classes that I also happen to not be that great at, there's always people who are willing to help and willing to teach me, and it's made all the difference in the world. And you can get that help, through your professors or through TAs, which is set up for you, or even other friends in the class who the material just makes sense to them. They're always so willing to give up a little bit of their time just so that you understand the material, and I find that it's very collaborative in that sense.
Yeah, one example, sorry to butt in, but I think one cool example of that is oftentimes when you're in one of the many extracurriculars you may be involved in, oftentimes there are seniors who have taken the class that you may have taken, or they have taken a class that you're currently in, and so they're always willing to help you pass down study guides or help you write the paper for the teacher that you're really afraid of writing the paper for. So I think that that I can definitely speak to Natalia's experience. It's an extremely collaborative environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And this next question I'm going to give to Connor, because it seems like they're asking about students in the college. It's from Nisha, and she wants to know, what is the core curriculum like at Georgetown?
Yeah, absolutely. So the core curriculum spans across all 4 schools. It includes theology and philosophy requirements. That's part of our sort of Jesuit values of education. More specifically to the college, those requirements also include classes in history, social science, physical and life sciences, writing, and foreign language. Those requirements definitely vary a little bit school to school. So I know the business school has a couple business school specific requirements. The School of Foreign Service has some, foreign service specific requirements, whatever that means. But I really value the core curriculum we've had here. That was kind of one of the big points for me when I was deciding colleges was, do I want the core curriculum or do I want the freedom to sort of be able to choose all my classes? But some of my favorite classes that I've taken at Georgetown, I wouldn't have taken unless the core curriculum was in place. It really forced me to sort of expand outside of my comfort zone and take those kinds of classes that I was never really even thinking about. I really value the fact that Georgetown has that in place.
Yeah, and keep in mind that all 4 schools have their own set of kind of core curriculum classes, but the college definitely has the most classes when it comes to the core curriculum at Georgetown. I'll go ahead and take this next one from Austin, and he's asking about, do students go out in DC? So I definitely think that's true. If you are going to come to Georgetown, definitely get out into DC. I think there's something called the Georgetown bubble, since if you guys have been to the campus, you know that we have tons of amenities here, from restaurants to stores, bars, so it's definitely easy to stay in Georgetown. But as you get older, you kind of start to venture out into the city, whether it's going to different restaurants. Once you turn 21, you can go out a little more into different places. But why don't we have Tanner also talk about his DC experience and things you like to do?
Yeah, so I think one thing that I've really found to be amazing about DC is the fact that it has such a burgeoning music culture. So there's always concerts going on, whether it be at the Kennedy Center or at the 930 Club or Echo Stage. There's so many different music venues, and I think that being in one of the biggest cities in America really has played well for who comes into town. I saw Fleetwood Mac with my roommate sophomore year, and they played at the Verizon Center. And so I think that that's one of my favorite things to do in DC is just go to concerts and find new musical artists.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to direct this one to Connor, because he actually just let us know that his brother is managing the basketball team. So what is the time commitment like for managing a sports team?
Ooh, I think
this is from Ethan and Julian.
Okay.
So
I think that question is going to vary a lot sport to sport. It really depends on the different practice schedules. I would say, I only know what my brother has done as a member of the men's basketball team. I would say he spends 3 hours per day on average. It depends on travel schedule for games and when they have home games and things like that. It can really vary a lot, but it is definitely a significant commitment. It really has to be something that you want to be a part of. But I think, at least from hearing what my brother has said, he really values the fact that he gets to be a part of a team now. He gets to make a lot of great connections through that experience, and he loves just being around a sport that he's been so committed to his whole life. So, if that's the kind of commitment you're looking for, it's definitely available here. And, no matter what the time commitment is, you make the time for it if that's something you really want to do.
yeah, definitely. So I'm going to go ahead and take this next question from Sarah, and she asks, in the NHS, can you minor in a language? And the answer is definitely yes. You can minor in a language across any of the 4 schools, any major. So the school is definitely open to having you minor in different languages. If you're in the college, you can actually double major in something in a language. So definitely many options for you to minor in all languages that are available at the school.
Within the School of Foreign Service, it's a little bit of a different process. So you can't double major, but we have certificate opportunities for you to pursue, whether it be in a regional study or in international development or in international business diplomacy, which is what I'm doing. And recently, as of last year, they are currently allowing students to pursue languages as minors as well. So in addition to becoming proficient, you have the option of adding on that language minor now too, which is cool.
Yeah, and then this next question is from Ethan, and it's about the early assurance medical program and double major. So how hard is it to double major and do the early assurance medical program? And I'm going to toss that to Connor.
You repeat the question, sorry.
Yes, how hard is it to double major and do the early assurance medical program? Yep.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's definitely certainly a possibility. The early assurance medical program is, for anyone who doesn't know, it's a way for Georgetown students to get accepted into Georgetown Medical School after their sophomore year, when most students are typically accepted sometime during their senior year. So it's a really great program. If you know you want to be at Georgetown Medical School, you only need to have completed 4 of your 5 pre-med requirements, which is something you would already do given the normal pre-med track. So, doing that is definitely not a problem. I would say doing a double major and pre-med will depend on what kind of things you want to major in. It would probably require a major in the sciences that has sort of compatible requirements with the pre-med curriculum. But I definitely don't think it's unheard of. I'm a pre-med student. I also got to study abroad. I also am taking 3 electives this semester. So clearly I've had plenty of space in my schedule to be flexible. So I think doing all those things is definitely possible. It just might require a little bit more planning than it would for other students.
Great. So funny that you mentioned study abroad, because that's actually our next question from Connor, who asked, how easy and affordable is it to do a study abroad at Georgetown? So I know the 3 of you have studied abroad, so let's go ahead and start with Tanner, who went to India.
Thanks, Cindy.
You're welcome.
So yes, so just kind of giving an overview about what study abroad is. We have an Office of Global Education that kind of runs all the programs regarding study abroad. And we have over 140 study abroad programs in more than 40 countries, and approximately 60% of Georgetown students will study abroad, whether it be doing a summer abroad, a semester abroad, or even a full year abroad, if you choose to do that. One of our more popular options is the Villa in Florence, Italy. It's a small satellite Georgetown campus where you're going with a ton of other Georgetown students and faculty, visiting faculty that will travel with you as well, and you stay at this nice villa overlooking the hills of Fiesole, and I wish sometimes that I went there because it looks really amazing, and they have a personal chef. But bringing it back to study abroad more broadly, if you study a foreign language, you are required to study abroad, and if you're an international health major in the School of Nursing and Health Studies, you are required to study abroad as well. So just getting that out there. With regards to my personal study abroad experience, I studied abroad twice. I went after my freshman year during the summer for 6 weeks. I studied abroad in Barcelona, Spain. I took 3 classes, got 9 credits, transferred directly into my transcript in GPA, and I took my proficiency exam at the end of that program right in Barcelona with the professors that I'd been studying with for 6 weeks. So it was a great way of kind of checking a bunch of things off my transcript checklist. And then, sorry, I'm getting to my junior year abroad as well, which was in the fall of my junior year. I decided to kind of study abroad in a place that I thought was more applicable to my major and the field of study that I was interested in. I studied abroad in India for 4 months, and what I like to say is my digestive system still hasn't fully recovered. But it was definitely one of the most amazing experiences, which I'm sure you guys can speak to as well.
Yeah, why don't you guys tell them where you went abroad?
Yeah, so we actually both studied abroad in Copenhagen, Denmark. Separate years. I just studied abroad this past fall. And from my personal experience, and from what I've heard, not too many people have, or like no one that I know has had issues like transferring over credit. But my own personal experience, it was really easy. Like all the classes that I took counted for something back at Georgetown. So that tends to be a concern as you're getting prepared to go abroad, because the classes offered at different programs around the world are different in terms of just like the subject matter, tend to be a little bit different than what is offered at Georgetown. So getting credit for that is sometimes a concern, but everything transfers over for the most part. Again, I can't generalize because I don't know of everyone's experience, but for the most part, they transfer over, and without a problem, I was able to take 5 classes, 2 of which counted towards my majors, and it was very seamless. Like the experience itself was incredible. It was, I don't know, living abroad for 4 months was the best decision I ever made, and it was something that Georgetown really encourages its students to do, and it was the best decision.
Yeah. And then, so Connor went to Copenhagen
Yeah,
as
so
well.
I studied in Copenhagen as well. I don't want to push too much because my experience was very similar. It was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. I will say that Georgetown has a whole office dedicated to study abroad, and they do a really great job. I mean, when I went to speak with my advisor, she walked me through the entire process, made sure all my credits got transferred and everything. So Georgetown is really dedicated to having students go abroad and have that experience, and they're going to make it really easy and seamless for you. So it's really open for every student who wants to do it.
Yeah, and so for those of you who are just joining us, this is the Georgetown Facebook live chat coming from Riggs Library on campus. We're just going to reintroduce ourselves. My name is Sydney Stockton, and I am a senior in the NHS studying healthcare management and policy.
My name is Connor Peterson. I am originally from Fairfield, Connecticut. I am a senior in the college, and I'm studying biology.
My name is Natalia Vasquez. I'm originally from Denver, Colorado. I'm in the McDonough School of Business studying marketing and international business.
Hi, once again, my name is Tanner Davis. I'm originally from Dallas, Texas, and I'm currently a senior in the School of Foreign Service studying science, technology, and international affairs, and I'm also pursuing a certificate in international business diplomacy.
Yeah, so it actually looks like we're getting a lot of questions about financial aid, and these are definitely questions that we want you all to get answers to, but it's definitely best for you all to direct those questions to the Office of Financial Services since they are very specific to each student. They have a great website with a lot of resources on them, and you can also call them Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, or email them with any questions. But let's go ahead and take the next one from Mark, who asks, how do you make most of your friends on campus? So let's start with Natalia.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
So my freshman year, most of my friends lived on my freshman floor in my dorm, and it was because it was a very tight-knit, strong community. So that's where I met most people. And then as I started taking more classes and getting involved in more like clubs and stuff, I started meeting people through there. So it's really cool. You kind of get to meet people who are interested in a lot of different things. And yeah, I mean, for me, it's like I'm still friends with people who lived on my freshman floor, but also people that I've taken classes with like this past semester. So you just keep meeting people along the way. And I think that's something that's really, really cool.
And what about you, Connor?
Yeah, I kind of have a very similar experience. A lot of my really close friends came from my freshman floor. We had a really tight, really great group of guys that I became really close to. But also through my classes and through my extracurriculars, I think I made a lot of friends as well. And just as Natalia says, it really gives you like a really wide perspective on the different kinds of people at Georgetown, and the fact that you can be friends with people with so many different interests that are either similar or dissimilar to yours. So yeah, pretty much the same answer. Pretty much everywhere on campus you can find friends.
Yeah, so it looks like housing and dorms are a good place to find friends at Georgetown. So let's talk a little bit about freshman dorms. So where did you live freshman year, Tanner?
I lived in Darnell Hall. So there's 4 freshman dorms you're randomly assigned when you come in freshman year. And each one has its own perk to it, and each one has a completely different layout. But what I loved about Darnell Hall so much is that unlike Harbin Hall, which has a cluster system, or New South, which has 2 long hallways as you go up each floor, Darnell is the only freshman dorm that has a square shape centered around a central common room. And so I thought that was really great at facilitating really strong communal bonds with people on your floor, because no matter where you were on your floor, you had a central location to kind of interact with people from your floor, engage with them, and become friends with them, and learn about what they do and what makes them tick. And so I think that I loved it so much.
Yeah, and where did you two live in freshman year?
So I also lived in Darnell
Okay.
Hall.
Yes.
And just to reiterate everything Tanner said, it fostered such a strong community. I can't speak for the other freshman dorms because I didn't live there, but Darnell was great in fostering like tight-knit relationships. And it's so cool even now, like walking around campus and saying hi to people, and then having like a friend who didn't live on my freshman floor ask me like, oh, how do you know that person? And it's funny, like even 2 years later to be like, oh yeah, they lived on my freshman floor. Like, and it's so cool that like that tight-knit community still exists, even though we've lived now in 2 different dorms.
Yeah, so I know they're giving a lot of praise to Darnell, but New South is definitely the best dorm, and everybody will say that the freshman dorm that they lived in is the best one. So while we're hyping up New South and Darnell, keep in mind it doesn't matter where you live in your freshman year, because you don't have a choice, 1, and 2, you're going to love whichever dorm you're in. So the next question comes from Nico, and he's asking, what are some of the internship opportunities for students in the MSB? So why don't you dive into more of what MSB students are focused on, Natalia?
Yeah, so most students in the MSB tend to major in finance or accounting. So the companies that will come to campus to specifically recruit tend to be more consulting industry or like banking industry, and they'll come to Georgetown and basically ask students to apply and be like, hey, we know that you guys are great students and you're, like Georgetown is a great school. We want Georgetown students. So they will come and seek you out. I myself am studying marketing, and for marketing and that kind of industry, it's a bit more you're going out to look for it yourself. But just because they don't necessarily come to campus to look for marketing students doesn't mean that they're not looking for Georgetown students. It's just a little bit more on you to kind of look for that. But it's really cool because you get to you'll find Georgetown alum in any industry that you look into. So as you like reach out, and I interned at an advertising agency last summer, and there were 2 people there who had gone to Georgetown, and being able to reach out to them and be like, hey, I know you went to Georgetown, I go there now, and being able to connect on that was awesome. So you, just because like even if you're not in finance or accounting and that's not necessarily like your interest per se, I guess. I couldn't think of the word. It's really very simple to like find those opportunities and seek them out.
Yeah, so then this next one is for Mina, and I think it's something that's probably on all of your minds. How is the transition to college? Let's start with Connor.
Yeah, obviously the transition to college is a very big one. It's a lot of changes for most people, I know, including myself. I had never lived away from home before leaving. I went to a public high school. So for me, one of the biggest changes was just having a lot more freedom and a lot more free time to kind of do the things that I wanted to do rather than having my day so structured as it is in high school. And I think it was really great that Georgetown had so many different opportunities for me because I had all this free time and nothing to do with it. But because of all these different opportunities that Georgetown granted to me, I was able to explore a lot of different things and find out what I was really passionate about and then get really involved with those activities. So.
Yeah, and then let's hear from you as well, Tanner.
No, I think I was literally going to say the exact same thing. I think the biggest transition for me, I think there were two. One, you're writing longer and more frequent number of papers. So try and hone your writing skills as best you can before you come. But that's not to say that it's not manageable. Trust me, it's very easy to go reach out to people who've taken that class before or talk to the professor about writing papers. So don't stress too much about it now. But I think the second big transition was just all time management. You're not in class from 8 to 5 or 8 to 4 every day. You may have classes on a few days a week. So what do you do on those off days and really taking advantage of the homework situation so you're not staying up super late, or maybe putting your classes only on Mondays and Wednesdays and getting an internship experience, because there's so many internship opportunities for students on campus during the school year, which I think is a huge advantage of going to Georgetown. And so I know a lot of people do that as well. So I think that just figuring out your time management skills was something that it definitely took time to learn. I'm still learning about it, but I know I have a better system now after being here for 3 years. So.
Yeah, and then this next question's from Mina. It's about where's the closest public transportation to campus, so I'll go ahead and take this one. So we actually have a bus system on campus called the GUTS bus, which will take you to different metros around DC. So it leaves from outside of McDonough Gymnasium, and it goes to places like DuPont Circle, Roslyn Metro, the Georgetown Law Center, up Wisconsin Avenue, which you guys probably don't even know what that is, but it definitely,
a Safeway
yeah, exactly. There's a grocery store there, but definitely you're able to get to different public transportation options. There's also the G2 bus, which actually parks right in front of the front gates, which will take you to places like DuPont Circle and all the way to the other side of DC as well. So definitely a lot of options for public transportation. Unfortunately, we don't actually have a metro stop in Georgetown, in case you guys didn't know, but there are definitely ways through buses or the metro when you get there, or Uber to get around DC.
I think biking is also, DC is a super bike-friendly city too, and so if you have a bike, want to rent a bike, that's definitely an option available.
Well, good you mentioned that, because Cameron just asked, should I bring my bicycle to GU or rely on walking? So Tanner, why don't you take that one?
So I don't have a bike on campus, but I definitely know that a ton of my friends have bikes. There's bike racks at all the freshman dorms very easily. I think the hardest part is just getting it here, in my opinion, but once it's here, it's super easy to navigate the city and the campus as well. So.
Yeah, and then next from Sophia, do you recommend any clubs for pre-med students, Connor?
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of great clubs that are focused on different aspects of science. So obviously the one to join if you're pre-med is the Georgetown University Pre-Medical Society. They've done a really great job the last 4 years really revamping their program. So now they'll have different medical schools come to campus throughout the year and have their admissions officers talk to you about their program and applying to their program and just different advice. They'll bring different faculty and doctors over from Georgetown Hospital to give lectures about their specialty and what it's like to be in the field of medicine. So I think that's a really great club to join. But there's also a bunch of other clubs on campus that are focused on science, whether it be papers, clubs that publish papers, or clubs that do different kind of science tutoring and teaching things within DC. There's a lot of great opportunities for pre-med students and extracurriculars.
Definitely. And then Natalia, why don't you take this one from Julianne? She asks, are the classes mainly taught by TAs or professors at Georgetown?
So something that Georgetown is awesome about is that every class is taught by a professor. So whether it's, it could be a small, like 15 person like seminar or like a big like 200 person econ lecture, it's always taught by the professor. And in the scenario where you do have that big like micro lecture for like a microeconomics lecture, it's taught by the professor, but then you'll have a discussion section, which is a smaller group of students, which tend to be around 15 to 20 students. And those discussion sections can be led by a TA, which is typically a graduate student who specializes in that field of study. But the class itself is always taught by a professor, and the professor will always hold office hours as well. So you definitely get that contact with the professor.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just going to say, I'm a teaching assistant in the biology department, and I would definitely say that our role as teaching assistants is to supplement the professor and give sort of a little bit of extra help to students, but it's always the professor who's teaching the class. It's never just the teaching assistant.
Yeah, and then this next question comes from Morgan. So if anybody had participated in a pre-orientation program and would like to answer this, is there anyone? All right, well, I could go ahead and answer it. So are the pre-orientation programs popular? So even though the four of us haven't done one, that doesn't mean they're not popular.
Yeah.
So pre-orientation programs are very popular at Georgetown. You get an introduction to the school before everyone else, which means 1, you get to move in, and 2, you have a chance to make friends with people before everyone else does. So I know people have done pre-orientation programs and love them. It also allows you to kind of connect with some of the administrators on campus, since they're running them a lot of the times, and meet older students who are volunteering for them. So it's just a great way to meet people before you get here and get introduced to the school, so you kind of have a smooth transition.
A few examples of some of the pre-orientation programs that we offer. There's a Leadership and Beyond one, a community service one, and we even have one that's led by the outdoor education program. So there's a wide variety of options there for you available.
Yeah, definitely. And then this next question is from Melissa. She asked, as a student in the NHS, can you minor in other schools? And yes, that is definitely true. You can minor in the college if you are a student in the NHS. So I personally am an African American Studies minor, but I know a bunch of other people who have minored in different things. They just have to be through the college for NHS students. This next question comes from Anthony, so we're going back to food. So,
our favorite topic.
Yes, our favorite topic.
All night.
Natalia, why don't you start off with, how is the food? That was his question.
The food on on campus, I can't speak. The food on campus is great. There's so many different options for you if you're on a meal plan, for example. We have one dining hall called Leo O'Donovan's. It goes by Leo's, so I sometimes forget the full name of it. But just in the dining hall, there's a bunch of different options. You can get like pasta, make a panini. They have like really fancy panini presses. So there's a bunch of different options at the dining hall, and now you can use meal swipes on-campus locations at Subway, Cozy, Salad Creations, Elevation Burger. And then even within just like the Georgetown neighborhood, there's a bunch of like restaurants just off campus. So you can always find like any kind of food that you're craving.
And also, fun fact, you can use your student ID a lot of the times to get a discount or an extra taco, sometimes at Chaya. So yeah, a lot of the local DC or Georgetown neighborhood eateries definitely like the fact that Georgetown students frequent them so often that they're willing to give them a discount.
Yeah, so this next question is from Ethan. I'm going to direct it at Connor. Can you work as a research assistant on campus?
Yes, there are lots and lots and lots of research positions on campus. I'm assuming this is focused on the sciences. So in terms of the sciences, every professor who works, 99% of professors who work in the sciences at Georgetown have a lab on campus, and they need undergraduates to run that lab. So there's always opportunities right here on campus to do that. The medical center also has labs, the hospital has labs, the NIH has labs. So whether you want to be right on campus, over in the hospital, in Bethesda at the NIH, anywhere in DC, there's a ton of opportunities to be a research assistant. I'm a research assistant at Georgetown Hospital, so and I know a lot of my friends are as well, so it's definitely very available for students.
Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and actually reintroduce ourselves again for people who have just logged on to the Facebook Live chat. So my name is Sydney Stockton, and I am a senior in the NHS majoring in healthcare management and policy from Raleigh, North Carolina.
My name is Connor Peterson. I am originally from Fairfield, Connecticut. I am a senior in the college, and I am majoring in biology.
My name is Natalia Vasquez. I'm a junior in the McDonough School of Business studying marketing and international business, and I'm originally from Denver, Colorado.
Hi everyone, my name is Tanner Davis. I'm originally from Dallas, Texas, and I'm in the School of Foreign Service, majoring in science, technology, and international affairs, and I'm pursuing a certificate in international business diplomacy, and I'm a senior.
Yeah. So our next question comes from Connor, and it's kind of fun. So, are any of you on Jack's squad? Because I'd love to be on Jack's squad. So, is anybody here on Jack's squad? I don't think so, right?
I'm not, but I know my one of my friends is, and it's so cool. Like, I'll see her just kind of walking Jack along and like walking around campus.
Getting mobbed by selfie.
Yeah. Her snap story is always so cool because every day it's a different snap story of like Jack and her walking him around and like getting mobbed by a bunch of people, like wanting to pet the dog, and oh my gosh, it looks like the best job.
People say it's harder to become a member of the Jack crew than it is to get into the university because everyone wants to hang out with Jack.
So our next question comes from Alyssa, and she asks, what should you do if you're stuck between two majors? So has anybody been stuck between two majors here?
I was
back
in my day. So I always I'm double majoring in marketing and international business, and marketing was always kind of set, but at least in the McDonough School of Business, it's very common to double major just because the amount of classes required for each major is pretty minimal compared to the other schools. But for my second major, I wasn't sure what I wanted it to be, and I was either between international business or accounting, and I ended up choosing international business because I found out I wasn't that good at accounting, but I was between the two, and in deciding, I talked to my accounting professor at the time, and then I talked to the professor who was in charge of the international business department. I hadn't yet taken an international business class, but I still couldn't really make up my mind, so I talked to both professors, just kind of expressed my interest, and I ended up going with IB because I thought that was a better fit for me, but both professors were very helpful in helping me discern which would be a better fit.
Yeah, so even if you come to Georgetown kind of thinking between two or even three majors sometimes, you definitely have time to decide. So besides the NHS, you really have until the end of your sophomore years to declare a major. So you will have time to take classes across different disciplines. So I wouldn't worry if you're still deciding in between two or three majors at this point. So I guess we're going to go back to study abroad. So Connor asks, as an SFS student, is studying abroad integrated into the curriculum or is it optional? So I'll throw that to you, Tanner.
Yeah, it's definitely an optional part of the curriculum. I think that because it's an international-oriented school, a lot of students do come here because it is an international program. Students feel as though to connect with the language that they're studying or the region of the world that they're studying on a more personal level, they will take that opportunity to study abroad in the region that they're particularly interested in. But by no means is it completely integrated. It's definitely on you to seek it out and figure out what programs may work best for you in the transcript or what countries you're thinking about. But that's what the Office of Global Education is there for, to help you kind of guide you through that process and thinking about what may work out best for you.
Yeah, definitely. And then I'm going to have Connor answer this one. It's from Ethan. When can you begin interning at the Georgetown Hospital?
Yeah, for sure. So I never like the word interning. I feel like it's very vague. It kind of depends on the experience that you want to have at the hospital. So if you want to just volunteer at the hospital, if you want to get involved in a research lab.
Sorry, guys.
Okay.
No worries. Good. Okay. So the question was about interning at Georgetown Hospital. It kind of depends on the experience that you want to have at the hospital. I'm supposed to keep going, right? Yeah. No, you're
we're back up.
Something.
Okay.
Sorry about that. So it kind of depends on the experience that you want to have at the hospital. If you want to just volunteer, if you want to work in a research lab at the med center, you can definitely get involved with that from day one on. My job need a little bit more background knowledge, so I didn't end up getting it until my junior year, but that's definitely something you can get involved with from day one.
Yeah. And then this next question comes from William, and I like to have all three of you answer it. What are your favorite study spots on and off campus? Let's start with Tanner.
Oh, God. So I think one of my favorite study spots on campus would have to be the room that we're currently in, Riggs Library. It's not open all the time, which is why coming here makes it even that much more special. But it does make it that much more difficult to get an opportunity to study here sometimes. But it's just a beautiful environment. It looks like Hogwarts from the inside. So I think this would have to be my favorite study spot. Off campus, I have 2 study spots that I really love working at. One is this restaurant called Chaya. It's a few blocks away. It serves vegetarian tacos. It's also the place where you can get 3 tacos for the price of 2 using your student Go card. But they have this awesome, beautiful upstairs space. It's a pretty, it looks like it's a restaurant inside of a house. So you just go to the second floor and they have free Wi-Fi, coffee there. It's awesome. But the second one I really love is the Library of Congress. I got my Library of Congress card my sophomore year, and it gives you access to actually study in the main area with the big rotunda. So.
And then how about you, Natalia?
On campus, my favorite place to study is actually a dorm. It's called the former Jesuit residence, or FJR for short, or Memorial Hall. I guess there's a lot of names for it. Anyway, it used to be way back in the day. The Jesuits used to live there, and now they've moved to a different building. So they renovated it, and now it's a student dorm. And on the second floor, there's this big common room that has like pool tables and like big like long study tables. And I love studying there because there's a bunch of windows, and there's always like enough activity going on that you don't feel like you're kind of like going crazy after like studying for a test or something, but it's not to the point where it's very distracting. So I like it because there's always like something going on, and it keeps me kind of entertained. And then off campus it's a coffee shop actually on the same street as Chaya, the taco place. It's called Grace Street Coffee, and I love it because there's a bunch of big tables, a lot of windows. I really like having windows, if you can't tell. There's just a lot of natural light, and again, there's always like activity going on, so a little bit of a distraction for when I kind of start getting like a little tired. I'll just kind of like look up, look around. So I love going to Grace Street Coffee.
Yeah, and then so this next question is from Evan and Isaiah, and they want to know what makes the biology department special. So Connor, if you want to go ahead and answer this one.
Yeah, for sure. The answer that I give for this question is that I think the biology department is really special here because it's somewhere in between a large research university and a small liberal arts college, and that applies to the biology department really, really nicely because we have the resources and the labs and the research opportunities of a very large university that gets that kind of funding, but at the same time we have that commitment to the education of undergraduates that you would get at a small liberal arts college. I don't think that's something that you get at a lot of other schools. I think you kind of get one or the other. And so I think biology is really special here because all the professors who teach in the biology department really care about you as a student, really care about you as a person. We'll make a point to get to know your name. I have relationships with at least 5 or 6 different faculty members in the department, but they also do research. They're also involved in academia, and you have that opportunity to get involved in that with them as well. So I think that's what has been really great about my experience as a biology major here.
Yeah. So this next question comes from Sarah, and I'm going to toss it to Tanner, who I know is a huge SoulCycle frequenter. Is it easy to find ways and time to work out during the school year? And can you talk about off-campus opportunities to work out and on campus?
Okay, so I'll start with thank you first off, Sydney. I do love SoulCycle. So let's start with on-campus workout facilities. So we have something called Yates Fieldhouse. It's accessible for any full-time student here, and what it is the workout facility for every student. So there's a wide variety of treadmills, ellipticals, free weights. There's indoor basketball courts, there's squash courts, tennis courts, even a swimming pool. And it's where a lot of our intramurals are played during the school year, which is fun. So that's kind of the main that's kind of the main hub of workout space on campus. Off campus, there's a ton of locations within walking distance of here, one of which is SoulCycle. So for those of you guys who don't know what SoulCycle is, it's basically just getting on a bike and riding to really pump up music. It's really fun. There's also something called Core Power Yoga Studio, which does yoga classes. There's Down Dog Yoga Studio just a few blocks away. So really there's a bar class near the waterfront as well. So there's so many different kind of boutique workout locations. We also have another kind of big workout location off campus similar to the Yates Fieldhouse called Washington Sports Club. So if you don't want to have a membership at Yates, you can always go to Washington Sports Club. It's the same exact thing essentially. Just some people like to go there over Yates just because they live off campus and it may be closer to them. So
And to add to that really quick, something that I think is really cool about DC is that there's a bunch of running trails really close by and within like, I mean, you can go on like a run to the monuments and be out and back in like 30, 40 minutes, depending on how fast you run. But that's really cool is that there's so many running trails right around here, and that's how I've like been able to stay in shape since I've been here.
Yeah, so this question comes from Connor, and he asks, is the campus accepting? So let's start with Connor on that one.
Is the campus accepting? Yeah, I think the campus is very accepting. It's a very inclusive environment. It's an environment where students are really proud of their diversity, and we're really proud to celebrate diversity on this campus. I've never ever felt like it's been unaccepting to students. I don't know if you guys have anything else you want to add to that, but
so to bring this back to history, when John Carroll founded the university, he had to actually finish before founding Georgetown. He had to finish his education in Europe, and as a direct result of the persecution he felt here as a Catholic student, or as a Catholic person, he wanted to establish a place that was open to people of all faith backgrounds and no faith backgrounds. And so today, with regards to religion and acceptance on that topic, we do have the largest campus ministry offices in the entire country, with chaplains supporting 6 different faiths: Catholic, obviously, Greek Orthodox, Protestant, Hindu, Muslim, and Jewish. We were the first American university to hire a full-time Hindu priest and imam, and the first Catholic university to hire a full-time rabbi. So I think that really speaks volumes to the fact that we're accepting in terms of religious diversity. We have a ton of resource centers on campus that are geared towards minority students. We have the Center for Multicultural Equity and Access, the LGBTQ Resource Center, which was the first one implemented by a Catholic Jesuit university, and we have the Women's Resource Center. So I really think that those values that were set forth here have kind of permeated not only the resource centers and the departments, but also the student body more broadly. And DC more generally is a very accepting city. So that's what I'll say about that.
Yeah, definitely. So this question comes from Nicholas, and he asks, is it hard to take 2 languages? So does anyone want to tackle this one? Who knows someone who's taken 2 languages?
It's hard.
Yeah.
Like, I think it just depends on what level you are at coming in. So I initially thought I wanted to finish my Spanish, get the proficiency so I could graduate, and then start up French. But I decided that I came into Georgetown being at the advanced 1 level, and to take a proficiency exam in whatever language you have to be at least at the advanced 2 level. So for me, I only took it for a year. So I could have actually probably added on another language very easily. For a lot of students who are coming and studying a more what do they call it, critical language, like Russian, Arabic, and Mandarin, they've never taken it before at their high school, so they're starting out from square one. And so for them, it may be a little bit more challenging to take multiple languages. But it's really up to you and if you're willing to put in the time and effort to study them. I know the critical languages are 6 credits and meet every single day of the week. So it may be a little bit harder to take multiple critical languages at once, but it's definitely an option available to you depending on where you are at in your current language study.
Yeah. And then this next question comes from Nick, and it's, does DC have a lot of opportunities and internships for science majors as it does for political majors? So do you want to go ahead and take that one, Connor?
So it's about DC specifically?
Yes.
Yeah. So obviously we're in the sort of political capital of the world, so it's definitely not going to rival the amount of opportunities that poli-sci students have or government students have, but at the same time, there are a lot of opportunities, both, if you want to do like hard science research as well as, other kinds of policy-based science research. So, the NIH is really close to DC. They have different locations within DC, so that's definitely a great, opportunity if that's something you want to do hard science research. But also, healthcare policy, different kinds of science policy, energy reform, all those different kinds of things are really abundant in DC. And so if you wanted to get more involved with the policy side of science, those opportunities are there as well. So if that is something you want, those opportunities are there for you in DC for sure.
Yeah. And then going off of internships, Andre asks, can international students get internships, and is there support to do so? So I can go ahead and take this one. So there's definitely opportunities for international students to get internships in a wide variety of fields and industries. It's really open to everyone. And we have our Office of Global Services at Georgetown, which will actually help you with the visa process for work visas, and that also applies to things like jobs on campus and internships. So there's definitely support on campus where they will help you fill out the paperwork, answer any questions that you have. So don't worry about not being able to get an internship if you're an international student at Georgetown. So this next question comes from Cameron, and I would love to hear from the three of you. When did you know that you made the right decision to come to Georgetown? So let's start with Tanner.
Why do you want to start with me? I look so confused. Can you give me a second to think about it?
Yeah.
One of you guys?
Here, I can start.
Sorry.
Yeah. So for me, it was actually closer to the end of my freshman year. So I do think that, like, a lot of the times you think you're going to come to school, make a bunch of friends, which is definitely the experience for a lot of people. My sister went to Georgetown. That's exactly what happened to her. So I felt like, why can't that happen to me? But it took me a little longer to find my niche. But I think in my second semester of freshman year, when I started joining more clubs and getting more involved, that's when I really found my family at Georgetown. So I definitely think for any school that you guys end up going to, give it some time. Don't expect it to be the first 5 weeks of school before you find your niche or where you feel like is home. But I definitely think that if you do find a community here that you love, it will happen for everyone at some point.
Okay, I can go now.
Yeah.
So I think I realized that I made the right decision when it was during our freshman year, and the majority of us, me, Connor, and Sydney, we were a part of GAAP together, and it was my first GAAP weekend ever. I didn't come to my GAAP weekend because I'd already known that I wanted to come to Georgetown before the GAAP weekends happened. But when being on the other side of things, hearing people's stories, getting excited about Georgetown for those 2 days, over 3 weekends, just really reiterated to me, how lucky we are to be at a place like Georgetown with the abundance of resources available to us, the size of the school, the types of people that are here, the food options as well. I think all of that combined makes Georgetown so unique, and I think that being reminded of it specifically during the GAAP weekends made me realize that, wow, this is the right choice for me. I also think, before we go, I had a couple of other friends from other colleges come and visit me last year, and sometimes you take for granted where you're at in life, and having them come visit me for the first time, walk around campus and be like, oh my gosh, this is like what Georgetown's like. It looks like Hogwarts. Townhouses around the neighborhood. John Kerry lives a few blocks away. Like all these things are very unique to Georgetown that you sometimes forget because it's so part of our everyday life. I think just reminded me this is such a special place, and I'm so lucky to be where I'm at.
Yeah. And Natalia?
For me, it was something that I saw like over the course of my freshman year, and it kind of like surprised me from day one when I got to my freshman dorm, like on our floor, on everyone's door, it had everyone's name and like where they were from, and seeing there were people, from all over the country, which was incredible, but also there were people from all over the world, and that to me, like seeing people that there was a girl on my floor from Bolivia, there was a girl on my floor from the Dominican Republic, someone from Turkey, like people from all over. I think there was something like 11 countries represented on my freshman floor of 48 people. Like that was so people from all over, and that to me was like, oh my gosh, I go to a really cool place where you're getting people not only from all over the country but from everywhere, and that was awesome to see.
Yeah. And you, Connor?
I was actually giving the same answer as Tanner. It was during my first GAAP weekend as a member of GAAP. So I'm going to give a little bit of a spin-off answer onto that question and say that it's definitely hard to recognize how lucky you are and how valuable this experience is when you're living in it. So I think having the opportunity to go abroad, while an amazing experience is something I would never trade in the world, and one of the best decisions I've actually made, was one of the best ways I actually realized how lucky I was to be at Georgetown as well, and how much value I place. When you're actually not on this hilltop for a little bit and you have to be somewhere else, a great opportunity again, but it really made me value the experience I've had at Georgetown by not being here and being away from that.
Yeah. So this next question comes from Karen, and she asks, what is the typical student like? So I'll go ahead and take that one and go off of kind of what Natalia said, that there really isn't a typical student at Georgetown. Everyone here is very different and comes from a variety of backgrounds and countries, but I will say that there is a common thread that everybody here is very driven and motivated, not only to succeed themselves, but to help their friends and others succeed. So as we mentioned earlier in the chat, this is a very accepting and caring environment. So people aren't only about seeing themselves get an internship or seeing themselves get a position on campus. We really are a school that is founded in community, where everybody is helping each other along the way. So I don't know if you guys agree with that or want to add anything.
No,
that's
I think there are so many examples of that kind of community being fostered between like seniors and freshmen even. I think just, you know, for me personally, when Sydney was the one helping me get a job this year, because she had already gotten a job, and then, you know, once I had my job, I felt empowered to, you know, help my friends who didn't have jobs, you know, figure out what they may want to do. So I think that Sydney kind of hit the nail on the head. We're all in it together, and we all want to see each other succeed. And I think that is an environment, I think, very unique to Georgetown. Maybe not Georgetown's not the only place like that, but I think that a lot of other universities may not have a culture like that.
Yeah. So then this is from Morgan. She asks, what is upper class housing like? So you're here for 4 years. You're not just living in the freshman dorms. Why don't you start with that one, Natalia?
Yeah, so my sophomore year, I lived in Copley, which is one of the buildings that's like on the main lawn. And to explain the process a little bit of housing after your freshman year, so you're no longer randomly assigned. You'll enter a lottery kind of, and you'll get a certain amount of points depending on how many like roommates you're going in with. If you're going into the housing lottery with 4 people versus 2, and you'll get a certain amount of points depending on your class status. So seniors will tend to get more housing points than juniors, and juniors will tend to get more housing points than sophomores. And then it'll open up, like, depending on, again, what class you're in terms of, like, year in school. And so for sophomores, there's a pretty big variety in terms of dorms. You can, if you're lucky, you end up in an apartment, but that tends to be a little bit rare for sophomores because those are reserved for upperclassmen for the most part. But like I said, I lived in Copley. That was suite style, so it was 2 rooms connected by a bathroom, which was awesome because you get your own bathroom after a year of having a common bathroom. And then there are other dorms. There's like the quad that has 3 dorms, McCarthy, Kennedy, and Reynolds, which is where I would say most sophomores live. And that tends to be a bit more of a typical dorm where it's like several common bathrooms on a bigger floor that's shared by everyone.
Yeah, so then after you are required to live on campus for 3 years, if you guys didn't know, but a lot of people actually move off campus their senior year. So I live off campus. I think you still live in an on-campus townhouse, and then Tanner lives off campus. So you can either live in something called an on-campus townhouse, which is really nice because we have these $1 million townhouses that you can live in as a student, or you can move off campus in your senior or junior year, depending on which one you want to live off campus for. And students, by off campus, I mean within fly blocks of campus. So definitely tons of housing options for Georgetown students in the area. So our next question is, what notable speakers have come to campus? So does anybody have any like big speakers that they saw during their time at Georgetown?
I've seen Bill Clinton, both Bill and Hillary Clinton speak here before. And that was awesome. I got lucky and kind of cut the line a little bit to go, but it's for Bill Clinton I did that, but for Hillary Clinton, like for bigger speakers, it's really cool to like get up early and you're up with a bunch of other students who want to go and you're waiting in line to go see speakers. So I've seen Bill and Hillary Clinton here.
Edward Snowden came to campus virtually, which I thought was really interesting. And people, I'm not particularly sure why he chose Georgetown to come and speak at campus, but it was an amazing once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to hear from someone in the position that he's in, and even, you know, bypassing the in-person the inability to meet with him in person, having the Georgetown University Lecture Fund, which is a group of undergraduate students that kind of reaches out to these high-profile speakers to get them to come on campus. I thought it was amazing that they were able to kind of get him to come virtually here. So that was definitely memorable.
Yeah. How about you, Connor?
I mean, I could start name dropping.
Yeah.
Freshman year alone, I saw Warren Buffett, Kevin Spacey, Stephen A. Smith, and Nas all in the same year, all in the same semester, I think. I know Ben and Jerry's from Ben and Jerry's have been here before. Yeah, right. I know the CFO of Airbnb was here like 2 weeks ago. So there's people here on campus all the time to give talks, and you can pretty much see anyone you want in your 4 years. It's pretty incredible.
And I don't think that any of us mentioned this or have seen him, but we actually have Bradley Cooper as an alum of Georgetown, and he's visited campus before, so that's very exciting.
Very, very.
So this next question comes from Ethan, and I'll have Connor answer. How easy is it to find your way around campus?
It is very easy. I think you can make it from one end of campus to the other end in about 10 minutes, which is incredible for a college campus. It's pretty small given the size of our school. And it's all pretty condensed into an area that's sort of gated in a sense. So we definitely have that campus feel that you don't necessarily get at other city schools, but definitely very easy to find your way around campus. I think I had it figured out within a week, not to brag, but I think I had it figured out within a week or so. So yeah, you'll catch on to it really quickly.
All the buildings have different architecture, so that makes it easy to figure out where your classes are too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And this next question comes from Isabel. She asks, with all of your commitments on campus, do you have time to go spend time in DC? If so, what do you do? So I know we addressed this a little earlier, so why don't we just talk about like time management and getting out to DC and making time for yourself. So let's start with Tanner.
Yeah, so that was what we talked about earlier about, that being one of the biggest transitions for me from high school to college is the ability to manage your own schedule, homework, classes. I don't think that it's necessarily mutually exclusive for you to get out in DC, but also study. Like we were talking about before, some of our favorite study spots are around the Georgetown neighborhood and even in DC. So I think that you can kind of kill two birds with one stone by going out and studying somewhere. But I mean, there's always opportunities to do things in DC, whether it be a concert, whether it be going to the monuments, whether it be maybe going to the Smithsonian's, which are free. And there's always cool exhibits that are circulating throughout the museums there. So those are some of the cool things that I like to do. One thing that I particularly am fond of is traveling throughout DC through food. So finding different restaurants throughout the city, not to bring it back to food again, but yeah, it's really pretty easy on the weekends, especially to find your way around the city.
Yeah, so this next question comes from Ania, and she asked about when does the roommate process begin. So we mentioned this a little earlier, but the roommate process begins in June, July of your summer. So it's really after you decide whether you want to come to Georgetown or not, and then they'll connect you with students through the portal called Charms, which is the roommate matching system at Georgetown. So this one is also for Tanner. Are there any research options for students in the SFS? And if you could also let us know if there's research options for students in social sciences in general at Georgetown.
Absolutely. I actually was a research assistant for one of my School Foreign Service or SFS professors my freshman year. Coming in, all SFS students are required to take a pro seminar, which is essentially a Socratic method seminar on a specific international affairs topic, and it's capped off at 15 students, so you really get to dive deep into the material and become friends with the professor. And I think that's one of the advantages of taking a seminar, especially during your freshman and sophomore years when you're taking those bigger introductory courses. And so from that experience, I formed a relationship with my professor, who ended up being the director of my major program here, and I got to do some minimal research for him in my second semester of freshman year, doing a thorough literature review on the subject matter that he was interested in. However, my experience isn't unique. There's a lot of different research opportunities to get involved in, with whether it be reaching out directly to a professor because maybe they have a special project they want you specifically or a group of people to work on. There's also opportunities through different, what would you call it? Centers here on campus. So there's one for women in security that was sponsored by Hillary Clinton. And so there's opportunities to do research there. Literally, I know I can't provide a ton of examples just because there's so many, but there are a lot of opportunities to be available to students to be involved in research, not just in the sciences, but also the social sciences and in the business school too. It really spans all four schools.
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and have us introduce ourselves again since it's been a while. My name is Cindy Stockton, and I am a senior in the NHS, majoring in healthcare management and policy from Raleigh, North Carolina.
My name is Connor Peterson. I'm originally from Fairfield, Connecticut. I am a senior in the college, and I'm majoring in biology.
My name is Natalia Vasquez. I'm originally from Denver, Colorado. I am a junior in the McDonough School of Business, majoring in marketing and international business.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tanner Davis. I'm originally from Dallas, Texas, and I'm a senior in the School of Foreign Service, majoring in Science, Technology, and International Affairs, and I'm pursuing a certificate in International Business Diplomacy.
So our next question comes from Emma, and she asks, are meal plans separate from the total cost of attendance at Georgetown? So I'll go ahead and hand this one to Tanner.
So they are included in the total. Was it the question about?
Yeah,
whether
they're
it would
separate.
Be, it's included
Separate from tuition.
Oh, it's separate from tuition,
Yes.
but it would be included
It's
in
in
a
the
total
cost.
cost of attendance here. But you're not everyone will have the same meal plan, so it's really dependent upon how many meals a week you want to. The plan you want to purchase, whether it be 14 meals a week or 21 meals a week, and so there's different pricing options with regards to that. But to answer the question, it's
Yeah, a lot of students, by senior year will choose maybe to not have a meal plan if they want to cook, or there's different, pricing points for different kind of meal plans. So it's not included in tuition, but it is part of the total cost of attendance of attending Georgetown. Yeah.
Yep. And then this next one comes from Evan, and it's about the arts. Are there plays and musicals on campus only for those students majoring in theater, or can anyone participate?
I can kind of speak to that.
Yeah.
So any student can participate. I personally did publicity for a show, and I have never done anything involving theater before in my life. But I know that any student is open to participate, to audition for a show. If you want to, if you're interested in writing a script for a show, they are always taking scripts for that too. So it tends to be sometimes more kids who are studying theater get more involved because that's just the nature of their interest, but it's open to anyone. And I mean, from my own experience, I'd never done it before, and everyone was so willing to help me out and kind of introduce me to that world, I guess, that I wasn't familiar with. So yeah, it's open to anyone.
So, I mean, in terms of extracurriculars too, I mean, that's definitely a great way for people who aren't necessarily focused focusing their studies on performing arts to get involved in the performing arts, whether it be through a cappella groups or dance troupes or, competitions. There's a wide array of things, and even if you're not really dance inclined, there's this awesome dance show called Rangila, which is a Southeast Asian, South Asian fusion dance show with over 500 Georgetown students, and so I would assume that not all 500 of them are the best dancers in America, but that's a great way for people who usually don't step out of their comfort zone to get involved even in dance.
Yeah, and this next question comes from Ethan, and he asks, what are class sizes and classrooms like at Georgetown? So Connor, can you take that one?
Yeah. Does anyone know what the average class size is?
26 to 1.
26 to 1 is, so that's the average student-professor ratio. But I would say that they're generally pretty small, especially when you get further along in your major and taking more specialized courses. So, anywhere you go, you're going to have your large introductory lecture classes. Those can be I think it's about 200 students. But if you are in one of those classes, they'll always have some kind of breakout session, either lab, recitation, discussion, something where you get, a more personalized experience with the professor and a smaller group of students to work with. But most of my classes now that I'm, a senior in upper level classes are around 12 to 15. I know students who have classes as small as 4 or 5. Yeah. And in terms of what the classrooms are actually like, again, you have your big lecture halls, but most rooms, generally speaking, are sort of smaller seminar-style rooms where you really do get that personal interaction with the professor and the chance to have those kinds of discussions in class.
Yeah, so just to let everybody know, we'll be wrapping up pretty soon. So we're going to try and get to a few more questions, but if we don't answer your question, we will comment on them after this live chat so that we can get to as many questions as possible. So Natalia, as a student, you sometimes have to go to office hours at night with the professor. So she's heading out to office hours with one of her professors in the McDonough School of Business. So bye, Natalia. But the three of us will still be here answering questions for the next 15 minutes. So the next question comes from Garima, and she's actually asking, what has your experience been like at McDonough? So even though Natalia just left, my sister actually was in the business school as well, so I can answer that one for you. So I definitely think the McDonough School of Business has a great community, and you also get a wide exposure to different types of fields and disciplines of business, whether it's management, marketing, accounting, finance. You're required to take introductory classes in all of these disciplines, so you definitely get to be exposed to different areas, and it will really help you when you're coming to decide your major. And as someone who isn't in the business school but who operates a club that's out of the business school, I can definitely say that the faculty and administrators there are also great as well, as they are in all the 4 schools, but definitely a great school to be in if you're interested in business or even fields outside of the business school. So our next question is about school spirit. So why don't you guys tell me a little bit about school spirit at Georgetown? I know we're not a huge like tailgate football schools, but Tanner, why don't you take that one?
So I think that the community here with regards to being Hoyas is actually very vibrant. I think that is something that I think both Connor and Sydney would agree. I think historically, we've been a basketball-oriented school, and so those games, since we've been here, have been kind of the rallying point with regards to the activity that we, or the sport that we rally around the most. However, with that being said, we're always out there supporting our Hoya teams and whatever they may be doing. Our soccer teams have gone to the national championships in the past few, or our men's soccer team went to the national championship a few years ago. Our women's soccer team went to the Final Four this year, and so sports is definitely kind of the starting point from where the school spirit stems from. But I think more broadly, being on campus and kind of having that Georgetown bubble, although sometimes you can find yourself in it, I think that has provided even more of a community for us because we are around each other so much that we love hanging out with each other and just talking about Georgetown and how much we love it, etc.
Yeah, and I think school spirit really extends beyond athletics. I think that's a really big part of school spirit. Everyone loves going down to the Redden Center and seeing the Hoyas play and beat Villanova. But I think it also extends beyond it. It's evidenced by the fact that our main theater that a lot of the groups perform in Gaston Hall is filled up for all the a cappella shows, Rangila, all these different kinds of events are all filled up. I think it really goes to show you the kind of community that we have here and the kind of school spirit that students have for activities, athletics or non-athletics related. So
it's very supportive of your friends, no matter what to do.
Yeah, so our next question comes from Diego, and he asks, do you have to study music to be part of the orchestra, or is it open to the student body via audition? Do you want to take this one, Tanner?
It's the second. It's open to people who are not necessarily studying that, but maybe are interested in being in a pep band, or he wants to be in orchestra.
Yeah, so I think he probably means pep band at Georgetown.
Yeah.
So that's who plays music at the basketball games and the football games. So that's open to anyone via audition at Georgetown.
And I have a friend who's in the SFS doing international econ or whatever you guys call it over there. But he plays in the orchestra too. He's one of the leaders in the orchestra. So it's definitely open to all students. It does not matter what you're studying. Yeah.
So this next question is from Sarah, and she asks, what is the social scene like at Georgetown?
Why don't you take that one, Sydney?
So I will go ahead and start with that one. So I would say Georgetown is a very fun school. We're not a huge party school or anything like that, but I would definitely say there's outlets for people to go out on and off campus. And also, if that's something you're not interested in, there's definitely no pressure to do that at the school. The social scene at Georgetown really revolves around the clubs that you're in on campus. So as you start to join clubs and make friends, they'll provide social outlets, whether it's parties or group dinners or different things to do around DC. So that's definitely one of the things that really drew me to Georgetown, because I knew I didn't want to just have one group of friends that I hung out with all the time. It really gives you an opportunity to have friends across the school, whether it's people you're living with, people you know through GAAP, or people you know through other clubs on campus.
Good answer. I agree.
Thank you. This is a great question from Ethan. How can one join GAAP? So, Connor, why don't you go with that one?
You can join GAAP by giving us your email when you get here. It is really anyone and everyone at Georgetown can be part of GAAP. We are the largest student-run organization on campus. We are at the CAB Fair every year, so if you come to the CAB Fair, you give us your email, we'll send you all of our emails, and you can get involved in whatever capacity you want. So we do a lot of different events throughout the year. Our biggest event are the GAAP weekends that we will be hosting, and hopefully all of you can attend. But we always need more volunteers to get a part to be involved with GAAP and to help us run those weekends. So we're always looking for people to come to join the organization, and it's super easy to get involved.
Opportunities of some things that you can do during the GAAP weekends include being a tour guide for the dorms. You can be a tour guide around the neighborhood too. You can run icebreaker groups. You can work at the check-in. Help us with the operations and logistics side of things. So there's really so many moving parts to our organization that there will definitely be a place for you. And so hopefully you come next year and find out.
Yep. So we're going to have our last kind of few questions. So Reagan asks, is off-campus housing expensive? So I can take this one. So there's definitely possible to find comparable housing options to on-campus and through the university townhouses that are the same price, but off-campus housing can get expensive depending on where you want to live. There's kind of two neighborhoods that people live in. The first is West Georgetown, which is on the side of the front gates, which is typically pretty much the more popular neighborhood since it's closer to M Street, which is kind of like Georgetown's downtown and campus. And then we also have Burleith, which is on the other side of the hospital. So a lot of students live up there as well in their senior year in neighborhoods like the Cloisters or just the Burleith neighborhood in general. Anywhere when you're looking at real estate, but there's definitely options, and if you don't want to move off campus, you can always live on campus as well. Yeah. So definitely not something that you have to do as a Georgetown student.
And I will say, as a point of comparison, I live on campus right now, so I pay the Georgetown sort of housing fees, and I know a lot of people I know a good number of people who have rent that is cheaper than my Georgetown townhouse-owned student housing fees. So it's definitely can be an affordable option if you're looking in the right places. Obviously, it does require a process, especially finding the house and all that stuff, but it's definitely affordable.
Yep. And then the next question is, are there work-study jobs on campus? So Tanner, why don't you take this one?
Yeah, so there are a ton of work-study opportunities for you to be involved in. I think one of the more popular opportunities is to be a student guard. There's student guards for all the dorms and at the library, so that's definitely an opportunity. That's kind of the main one that I know about. Do you guys know?
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of different opportunities for work-study jobs. You can pretty much do anything you want. My job in the Georgetown Hospital is a work-study job. I know one of the other really popular ones is DC Reads, which is an organization that goes out into different districts within the district and teaches different elementary school students how to read, and they get work-study pay compensation for that. So there's a lot of different ways you can have a work-study job on campus.
Yeah. So we're going to ask our final question, and why don't you tell everybody why Georgetown? So let's start with you, Tanner.
Okay. So I think that initially when I stepped on campus with my mom, who wanted to come on every single campus tour with me, I was first struck by the beauty of Healy Hall with a plane flying over it and the statue of John Carroll in front. And it just was so mesmerizing to me, this beautiful Gothic architecture that looked like I would be going to Hogwarts. And I was first struck by that, so I think that kind of drew me in. And then on the small walk from the front gates to the admissions office, I heard actually 3 different languages being spoken. And so I think what that said to me was that this university attracts so many people from all over the world. It's kind of what Natalia was talking about on her freshman floor. It was very evident to her that the people who come here there's no one type of Georgetown student. We come from all different types of backgrounds, and that was something that I personally was looking for when I was trying to find a university, because I came from a pretty homogenous background, and I just really wanted to step outside of my comfort zone. And so I think that hearing those 3 different languages was really a testament to that aspect of Georgetown. And then when I was on my campus tour, I saw my tour guide kind of being heckled by her friends, and so while that may seem very minute to you, to me, what that said was that this campus isn't big enough where you're not going to see people you're not going to see people ever, unless you seek them out, and it's not small enough where literally you're going to be stopped by every single person because you know them. It's kind of in the middle. It's a nice middle ground. It was a nice middle ground for me where I would see people constantly be in very close reach of seeing them and hanging out with them, but also have opportunities to join new clubs where I may not know anyone, and it provides me an opportunity to meet new people. And so I think the combination of that, the fact that we're in DC, and the fact that it had an academic discipline that was perfectly matched what I wanted to study were kind of all the reasons why I wanted to come to Georgetown.
And what about you, Connor?
Yeah, so the reason I chose to come to Georgetown was because of my GAAP weekend. So a little plug for all of you out there watching. Please come to GAAP weekend. It's a great experience. But we've talked a lot about internships and clubs and a lot about food tonight. And all those things are great. All those things are really important in making your decision. But I think the thing for me that really made my decision for me was the people at Georgetown. And I say it's people even now, like reflecting on my experience, probably has been the most meaningful part. There's just something different about Georgetown students. They're so passionate about being on the hilltop. They're so passionate about being Hoyas. They have so many passions, and Georgetown and DC gives them the opportunity to act on those passions. And you can just see it if you stand in the middle of campus on a Friday afternoon with all the groups outside tailing around you. You got our Grilling Society cooking burgers, people playing on the lawn, having fun. That community feel was something that was really special for me, and it's something that I've really valued about being in Georgetown.
Yeah, so for me, I kind of had a unique experience in that even though I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina, I actually grew up in Europe. So I kind of had moved around a lot when I was growing up, so I definitely knew that I wanted to find a place that I would be in it for 4 years and really love it. So something I really like about Georgetown is kind of the international flair of the school, whether that's just with the students that we have on campus or the curriculum that we have. So I know in a lot of my classes that I've taken, international topics have been addressed, or it's really cool when you are talking about something that's like going on in France and then a student from France is like, this is my perspective on it, and I'm actually from this country. So I think it's a really great environment if you want to be exposed to people from different places, if you want to learn about what it's like to come from a different country or be somebody from a different background. So definitely a great experience that I would not trade for the world. But thank you guys so much for tuning into our live chat. That was our last question. If we weren't able to get to your question, we will be commenting on questions that we didn't get to after the live chat. A quick reminder for all of you to come to your GAAP weekend on March 24th and 25th. It's going to be an amazing way for you to get really exposed to all parts of Georgetown. But thank you and have a great evening.
Thank you.